So then I put on a conference. I started putting on a conference called Digital Now. And I would bring together 300 CEOs, for-profit, nonprofit, every year. And the whole purpose was not, it was not a conference about technology. It was a conference about how do you help organization leaders navigate in a world of accelerating change. Well, I think the biggest challenge that the boards face today are centered around two issues. One is the role of governance. I think too many boards kind of view their role as not just strategic, because they learned about, hey, we're talking about helping the organization. You don't develop the strategic plan. You ask the CEO to develop the strategic plan. The CEO reports to you. You don't sit there. The staff does not report to you. You're the only boss that you're the boss of the CEO. And too many times, they get the part about strategy, but then they sit there and they ask the guy, and the CEO doesn't know enough about the details, so they bring somebody else in and they get into the details too much. First of all, you always have to hold the CEO accountable, and you put them on performance improvement. I think the second one, which is a little bit tougher to do, because the CEO and the board may not feel comfortable, but I think there's a role for the CFO. The CFO, sitting at the room, he has to be there anyway because he's there to give the financial report. But you have the CEO or the CFO take on a role that says, hey, oh, by the way, we hold you as a team. That is a borderline issue. I'll admit that, but I've served as a treasurer on many occasions on all the boards I've served, because you can't understand the business if you're not in the financial side of it, before being a board chair. Although I think in the board seat, you want to give opportunities to both the consumers. In the case of higher ed, it's their students, but in the case of a professional organization, it's their members, to get in front of and to share with the board kind of what their issues are. What are the pain points that you as a professional, have? I think the second thing you should do, because I think this is going to be something that will always be there, is how is the organization managing their talent? What are they doing to help that first line manager? Because the key to any successful organization, regardless of size, because even a small organization, you still got to deal with management issues. No one ever trains first line management. I mean, you would think people would have great online first line management training. It doesn't exist, because no one ever teaches you how do you sit there and pick up the phone and answer the customer service helpline or member services helpline, when your staff is sick at home taking care of their infants or their parents or their mothers and things like that. So I think the key to the future of organizations is understanding the role that first line manager has to play, and whether you have to sit there and understand something of it or help guide and shepherd that first line manager.
Diversity.
I would say I would always prioritize a natural born leader, because a natural born leader knows how to listen, and he or she will uncover what the industry issues are and find the right resources, whether he or she has to pick up the phone, talk to 100 consumers, and establish the relationships. And then if he or she runs out of resources, then he or she is responsible for going out and raising the money to help do that and tell the story. I think the trade organizations, have a little bit of benefit of that, because their members are CEOs and they kind of get it. And many trade organizations, the association or ASAE's, dues are more commensurate with the size of the organization, the percentage of revenue or number of people. So the money, I think, will be there. The money's always been a secondary issue to me. It's about getting the right issues, getting the right leadership in place, and then there is the build it and they will come. Get the right people in place, and then you will have leadership. I think, when you get to a certain size, I think fundamental is always going to be around leadership and listening skills. In order for a board member to function properly, while they don't need to reach down, they need to be able to listen and speak to other board members. The chair and the board person needs to have an understanding of when is it appropriate to sit there and raise the hand, and but at the same dealing with contentious issues, but always giving the chair a heads up. Same way the chair should give a board member heads up, we're going to talk about this specific issue. I know you're not happy with where we are on it. I know you have a certain point of view. Let's get it on the table. And we should always have that dialogue in an open forum. But I think there's a time, it's the burden is also, you should never blindside somebody in a boardroom on that side, because otherwise you're just going to sit there and create, our political system, where we don't have any space for dialogue. And that's the issue today. People keep worrying about, are we going to be put out of our job in the association world, right? And I mean, that's all you hear about. And the answer is no, because you're always going to need somebody who has that understanding, even with all the generative AI and things like that. You need somebody who can sit there and say, what is the real truth? I think if you still stay with the fundamentals of what an association is about, I think the best route to the executive rank and to be able to make the difference is really on the advocacy side. Because if you can sit there and tell the story and talk about the impact, both to the profession as well as to individuals in there, that's really the power. And that's how I think people who are going to make progress at the organizations and make career progress is to go down the advocacy route.
I'm ready.